The Chinese EV boom is hitting speed bumps, and it's nasty. Think Tesla is sweaty? Not this time around. Hold on to your charging cables because a surprising twist has appeared in the EV world. Those once famous Chinese EV companies, many are alternating on the brink of economic hardship. Let's find out more. At least 3 dead Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers are reviving after the industry was hailed as a new productive force, a slogan established by President Xi Jinping to encourage the development of sophisticated technology. Jidu Electric Vehicles Co., a microcar manufacturer that declared bankruptcy in 2019, announced it had completed a restructuring with the assistance of IMA Technology Group Co. and automaker Zhejiang Holding Group Co. It has resumed production and plans to unveil a new EV dubbed Jidu Rainbow in April, according to a March 7 post on its official WeChat account. Haima Automobile Co., which has been losing money for years due to weak sales, transferred its management and assets in January to an entity supported by the Zhengzhou city government in central China, where the carmaker maintains a factory that produces the EX00 electric minivan. According to local media sources, Aiwei's Automobile Co., which halted manufacturing and stopped paying its employees in the middle of last year, has obtained funds this year and is working to resume operations. According to sources, the brand will prioritize exporting above local sales. New productive force became a buzzword during this year's National People's Congress and was defined by state news agency Xinhua as high-efficiency and high-quality production driven primarily by technological innovation, as opposed to conventional production, which requires significant investment. The phrase appeared during the resurrections of Jidu and Haima. Ran Zhenhe, the governor of Gansu province, where the Jidu factory is located, visited the plant and expressed his satisfaction with the commencement of output, wishing the automaker to develop quickly to increase new productive forces, according to a corporate post. Meanwhile, the government of Zhengzhou, Haima Auto's new home, announced plans to construct new productive forces, including the establishment of an EV manufacturing base with an annual production capacity of 1.4 million cars. In China's huge and fiercely competitive vehicle market, reviving the 3 zombie EV makers is a dangerous investment. Only 1/3 of the top 12 manufacturers met their sales targets last year, and the industry has been mired in a brutal price war that has decreased markets. The government has also delivered contradictory signals, with a top official slamming local governments earlier this year for overinvesting in the EV business. One risk for any new local government sponsors is that reborn EV makers may eventually become another drain on public coffers. China is a little late to the electric vehicle party. Until a few years ago, China's EV market share lagged that of other major regions, but adoption has increased dramatically in recent years. China's EV plus PHEV market share is expected to reach 50% next quarter, ahead of almost everywhere except the Nordic countries. However, as is often the case, China is not always the first to enter a market, but when it genuinely commits to something, such efforts trend to produce fruit quickly. Chinese EV sales have begun to take off internationally, particularly in Europe. While they still account for a modest percentage of the market, about 10%, that share has increased rapidly from less than 1% in 2019. And it could be greater if Chinese automakers could find more ships, which they are working on. European automakers are requesting the EU to probe the flood of Chinese EVs, even suggesting retroactive levies instead of recognizing the need to improve. They argue that the Chinese government unfairly subsidizes the auto industry, resulting in uncompetitive prices. Never mind that European governments also fund their auto sector, not to mention the vast worldwide subsidies for pollution and that cheap costs are excellent for consumers. In fact, if EU customers are gaining from Chinese subsidies, that implies a transfer of capital from China to the EU. Sure, petitioning governments for assistance isn't the only thing they're doing. They're also finally getting their pants up off the floor and considering producing cheaper EVs. But both of these initiatives are directly opposed to lobbying efforts to relax emissions and regulations. If you're concerned about competition undercutting you and seizing leadership of the EV transition, the solution isn't to reduce output and pretend that EV sales are declining when they aren't. It's to accelerate. In the United States, anti-China lobbying has been more preemptive. There aren't many Chinese-built EVs in the US, and the government already imposes a variety of protectionist duties on China. The new Inflation Reduction Act, which established hundreds of billions of dollars in incentives for EVs and green energy, includes provisions designed to benefit automakers that avoid utilizing China in any section of their supply chain. And scaremongering about China is prevalent in US political and economic discussions. So, do you believe that the prevailing scaremongering about China in US discussions is warranted? Why or why not? So it's evident that Western automakers aren't aiming to compete on price or volume. Instead, they're looking to change the rules of the game, resulting in greater pollution and higher priced vehicles for consumers. They don't want to win the game, they want the referee to give it to them. It's gamesmanship, something the industry is well versed in. But do we truly believe it will work? EV uptake has far exceeded the minimums imposed by emissions regulations. So far, the driver has not been government-imposed regulatory minimums or targets, but rather market demand. And the realization that gas vehicles will soon become an albatross around the neck of everyone who makes the foolish decision to purchase a new vehicle. We've seen it happen in Norway, where plug-in car sales are well above 90% ahead of the world's most ambitious 2025 objective. In China, where EV penetration has risen dramatically, surprising global automakers, and in California, where ZEV goals have been met years in advance. As a result, easing the laws does not appear to reduce consumer demand, and the public prefers stricter regulations. Instead, it will irritate buyers who have been irritated for years that there aren't enough options available. See the frenzy over the R3 and EX30, when there are so few other tiny EVs, and persuade laggard manufacturers that they can take their time joining the party. However, if automakers in countries with significant auto sectors, such as Japan, wish to survive the shift, they cannot be late to the party. The more they wait, the more problems they will have and the more advantage their competitors will have. How do we know this? Because it has already happened in our industry during the last decade. Over the previous 10 years, there have been numerous attempts to control Tesla's sales model, but few attempts by automakers to properly compete with Tesla's product programs. We've also seen the industry lobby for abusive EV taxes and other absurd restrictions in a frantic attempt to push EVs for daring to be a better option. All of this occurred while Tesla gradually entered and dominated new market categories. The first sign came in 2014 to 2015, when sales of large luxury vehicles declined for all manufacturers except Tesla. This happened again with the Model 3, and the Model Y has become the best-selling vehicle in the world. Despite a decade of warnings, real EV efforts from rival automakers have only recently begun to ramp up. However, most automakers still only offer a few EVs, and many of them share platforms with gas cars. And thanks to Tesla's head start, they are the only firm that has scaled and reduced costs to the point where they can unilaterally drop prices, sparking an EV pricing war that they are best suited to cope with. Automakers have already lost ground by refusing to act faster to accept the already here future. In addition to the aforementioned market share figures, the industry provided Tesla with the entire concept of fueling stations. Over the last decade, every automaker has stated that charging is not their problem and that someone else would fix it, while yet claiming that they are unable to scale EVs because of a lack of charging infrastructure. Tesla recognized a lack of charging options and constructed chargers to address the issue. And now, as a result of automakers' intransigence, and also thanks to President Biden's infrastructure laws, which influenced Tesla to finally open up its supercharger network, every vehicle manufacturer is now using Tesla's NACS plug, which means that they will all use its supercharger network, and Tesla will be able to profit from fueling almost every car on the road. Tesla, you're welcome. Signed by the automotive industry. So, have you been privy to this alarming trend within the EV industry? What do you observe using this wave of bankruptcies among Chinese EV makers? Share your mind within the remarks underneath. If you found this update insightful, deliver it a thumbs up. To live updated with the brand new information and insights inside the EV industry, subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for notifications.